Good evening, everybody. Thanks for being here. We're going to have some interesting stuff tonight, but we're going to be very balanced and fair about how we present this. And let me bring in Kate because I thought it was, hugely important that because me and Kate have been chasing this stuff together for a few years. So let me just bring her in. Hey, Kate.
Hey, Kevin.
All right. So to start the discussion about this, I just wanted to mention how information comes to us, and this is how important the audience is. So I was talking about some of this related to what we're going to talk about tonight on my last show, and somebody had seen that and heard that, and based on that, had a little bit of information that they sent my way. And I'm not even sure if they realized how big it was, but when I looked at it, I was like, this is potentially huge. But we had to verify it. So we had numerous people spending, and you're going to see the results of that verification here. We have the receipts. But this is how it works. This is why the audience is so important to us, because this is how 95% of the information, at least for me, maybe Kate's more out there on the streets digging, so she may get more information the other way, but I really rely on the audience. I don't know about you, Kate. What do you Kate, you still there?
Yep, still here.
We lost you.
Sorry.
I'm sure you get a lot of information from your audience too. I just think it's so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's the best way. There are people out there that know things, right? And so I think that's part of trying to dig away and get at the truth of the situation in this matter and just about anything is to, enlist the public when possible and get your feelers out and see who knows what and what can be verified. And I think it really worked out well for you this time. I mean, at least pretty promising. So it's integral, really, because that's how you get to know anything, right?
Right.
Is through people.
I think that's also even just the way police often solve crimes is from somebody comes in off the street with information that turns out to be exactly what they needed. I don't think there's too many actual, Inspector Clouseaus out there. Or maybe there's a lot of Inspector Clouseau out there. I don't think there's too many Columbos out there, breaking the case with their pet beagle. But the other thing I want to go into is this is not the first time big information has come into my lap. And, I had no training. I'm not a journalist. And you start learning what is the best way to handle these things fairly, objectively. And the first important thing is to verify, corroborate as much of it as you can. And if you can't, don't go public with it. I broke the story that the federal investigation was over, but I had several sources coming from, let's just, not without going into that, but I was 100% verified on that one. And I broke that 2 days before Fox News did. But other stories I've had, I couldn't verify and I never reported them. And that's just the way it goes. And maybe later on, it turned out that those stories were true, but I don't regret trying to be responsible about it. And then also sometimes some of those stories that did turn out to be false. And of course, I made a huge mistake with reporting what Sean McDonough gave me about Colin Albert. So, I've made mistakes along the way too. So it's definitely a learning process. Do you want to talk about anything about that, about the process? And it's also important too that you don't want to overhype things,
right?
And we don't want to jump to conclusions. We have to be very, very careful with information we get.
Absolutely, and I think that some of the caveats that Free Karen Reed fell into are quite human and quite possible to do on the flip side of things too. So I know that today, Kevin, word got out a little bit, and I'm sure a couple people called me and said, oh my gosh, what do you think about? And I said, I think it's promising. It's interesting. It's definitely worth discussing. Is it a smoking gun? We have to be fair and say no, right? But it's,
I think it's about as close to a smoking gun as you can have without having a smoking gun. And I don't think I think once we give the people the information and let's let them make their own decision on it.
Right.
I think regular people will conclude very much the way we did when we looked at it, that it's more than promising, I would say. But yeah,
and I don't want to detract. I guess what I'm saying is that I like to temper it with there's still some ambiguity about what this means, and I'm obviously not going to get ahead of ourselves here, but Free Karen Reed literally built an entire conspiracy theory around something similar but less compelling. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right. We don't know, we can say as we get further into it that Karen knew this person, but that doesn't mean there was actual communication between Karen and this person, or that doesn't mean any improper communication. So we're going to go over all before we get to it. And I'm not trying to delay it like Geraldo with Capone's treasure there, or whatever that was. But I think it's important to set up the proper context of why, when you and I saw this, why we thought there was something worth chasing here for the last few years. So what is it, just from your perspective, I've talked about it many times on the channel, that made you think there's something suspicious or improper in the relationship between Karen Reed and her team and the feds?
Pretty much immediately. And I think I told you sort of when I started to feel that way in way of the story about the Victoria Haskins, right? I'm not rehashing that, but that just for frame of reference is how early on I immediately was like, there is impropriety here. And the reason being is that this information about the federal investigation was so freely flowing from Turtle Boy, who, I mean, it took me pretty much immediately within the first blog, I knew that he was communicating with Karen Reed, like in my heart, but I couldn't prove it. So like, I should say I strongly suspected it, found it to be a probability more than a possibility. And I was very quickly after that, within months, really able to confirm it and then force it out into the public. Right. So it's quick, so I knew that as this information is flowing from him, it's really flowing from her. And it is beyond bizarre for law enforcement in general, but especially the federal government, to share that much information with someone who is technically would not be a party to the case anyway. Right. And for it to be just leaked all over, there was something very odd about that, because it's like, usually you report a crime to the police, and especially if you're not a victim, right? And, there's public corruption. There is no one victim. And it came out very quickly that was the unit. So she's not a victim. She was never going to be a victim in that case, but she has such a tremendous amount of information. When you report a crime, they'll walk you through the steps a lot of the time. They'll tell you what, you give them the information, and then you usually don't get a lot back. That's why we have victims' rights that entitles victims updates through the DA's office, through the courts, because, to keep the integrity of their investigations a lot of the time, a lot of information doesn't go that way. Now, if you're on the local level, you're going to get a lot more information back. The state level, once you get up to the feds, though, no, they're not telling you stuff like that, and they would have no reason to. And it was even more bizarre to me because this free flowing information is coming from someone who is still actively moving towards trial for murder, right? So like right off the bat, there was something really fishy. And then after I started speaking, and
just to parse it out too, Kate, not to interrupt, sorry, but to parse it out, it seemed like Karen was getting information from her contacts with the feds. But at the same time, we now know that there was a grand juror that was leaking information to a friend that was giving it to Turtle Boy. So do we still think that Karen was, is there still any evidence that Karen was getting any information, for instance, about when the grand jury testimony was for the witnesses? Is there still any information? Is that a dead end, or is there still any smoke there?
I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity with that because, and I think we can talk about this more as we make the big reveal here, but the way that she was charged and pled was very much just, there was not a lot of information outside of she leaked this information and she shouldn't have. There's a lot of ambiguity in the fact that we know that she leaked it. And thanks to Aiden Carney's incredible ability to just self-snitch and overshare all the time, we know that friend that she was leaking to was connected to Turtle Boy. But as far as the court documents go, it's just focused on what she did. But there's a lot of information that has come out, particularly about the grand jury, and it's just sort of like a hanging question mark. Was it the juror, or was it, the DOJ?
Or both.
Or both, right? Because
was there anything in the? What about the arrest warrant and the related material that was related to when they went after Karen's second phone. There was an awful lot of information about that, about her. And in fact, that's where we learned, for example, the state had the phone records that showed Alan Jackson and David Yannetti speaking regularly with Turtle Boy in those early days, over a dozen times each. Was there anything in that about an accusation of the feds leaking? Because it was, I seem to think maybe there was, but I don't remember for sure.
A lot of that came from Lindsay Gaetani.
So, yes, so it might not have been true, but yeah.
And this is where it gets tough. And, at the time, I absolutely implicitly believed her. It would appear that the police did as well. She was saying things that people knew to be true, that it wouldn't make sense that she would she was credible enough. And she had some texts where, it's
because she was dating Turtle Boy at the time, and Turtle Boy was
well, it's not just right. I'm sure that not everything that she said was a complete lie, right? I'm not just most of it. Unfortunately,
in fact, a lot. Well, but a lot of things that she said, Turtle Boy didn't refute.
Right. Well, but the thing about the basis for a lot of the speculation or the quote unquote information about his relationship with the lawyers and then the feds, these supposed conference calls that Karen was having and everything. They're Aidan Carney, reciting this to Lindsay Gaetani, that's then is telling other people and showing these texts as proof. So it's hard to say.
Just tell the audience what that is. You're talking about the teleconference call.
Sorry. So Aidan had told Lindsay back in November or December of 2023.
2023. Yep.
Yeah, that Karen Reed had told him that they had a conference call with the DOJ, namely Josh Levy, her and her attorneys, and that
who was the U.S. attorney at the time.
Correct. He was the acting U.S. attorney, and that essentially what they were told by Josh Levy and his colleagues was, "Hey, is there any way that you can delay the trial? And oh, by the way, the media is picking this up. So, don't say that we communicate," pretty much. Right.
Right.
But the thing that gets me about that, though, is that I think Karen would really know that the media was going to pick it up before the DOJ, in theory, because she's the one that leaked it to him in the first place. You know what I mean? The letters, the DA's office did not give the media those letters between them and the DOJ. There's no way. Ethically, they wouldn't do it. And just logically, even if they were dirty, they would not share that with the media. That's then twisted to make Michael Morrissey look like a suspicious oaf. Right. So it's pretty clear how the media got those letters. It was Karen Reed's team. So I don't know if Karen Reed actually said that to Aidan, and and he's repeating what Karen said and it wasn't true, or if she never said that and Aidan just manufactured this to have something to impress Lindsay with. I don't know for sure, but there is the allegation anyway made by Aidan Carney that Karen Reed had said that she had a conference call with Adam Deitch and members of the DOJ.
Josh Levy. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Josh Levy.
Right. Yeah. I don't know if Adam was on the call.
Sorry, they're becoming interchangeable in my head at this point. And honestly, I'm now more focused on Deitch than I was Levy. Not to say that I think Levy wasn't complicit or involved, but the more that I hear about things like, what's in that unaired footage, we know a lot of it has to do with Deitch, right? Cat's out of the bag there, and his actions in running for district attorney after the fact, and then this connection that it just seems to me that Adam Deitch was probably one of her stronger champions rather than Levy.
All right, let's go back a little bit earlier to that chronologically to August 2022, when we know this we've seen the messages revealed by Nataly. That this is when Karen and her team somehow got a meeting with Josh Levy, who at that time was first assistant U.S. attorney, so right underneath the U.S. attorney. Very powerful position. And she was very excited about this meeting afterwards. She sent Nataly a chart showing how high up on the poll that Josh Levy was, and she was saying the feds don't swing and miss, and she was very, very excited to have enlisted the help there. And the ordinary murder defendant cannot get a meeting with the first assistant U.S. attorney. So we're going to come back to this, but this is the big thing that we've been chasing. How did she get this meeting? Was it a personal connection she had in that? You can't just walk in there and get a meeting like that. Every murder defendant would want that. Because to be able to say, if you can somehow talk the feds into unleashing the FBI, that's going to on the police that are investigating you, that's automatically going to create doubt in itself. So just the mere presence of that investigation.
Right.
So anybody would want that in theory. In theory they wouldn't if they thought the FBI was going to find more evidence that would, be against them. But still a pretty big thing to go after. Not anybody could have that. Not just anybody could have that kind of access. You and I couldn't. So how did Karen have that? Was it Jackson that had that kind of pull? Was it Yannetti that had kind of pull? Maybe he had, Yannetti was around long. That would have been my guess for a long time. But we're going to reveal tonight that it's probably not that, because we always have wondered, did Karen have some kind of personal connection? And the other thing is that had this been, it's a reality in life that people have access sometimes because of somebody they went to school with, or someone they're friends with, or because they have a lot of money, or their family has power. There's all kinds of reasons that sometimes certain people have access and that regular people like us might not. And that's just the way that the world works. It's not in itself necessarily wrong or a crime that Karen had some kind of access to Josh Levy that was able to get a meeting with him. What stunk to us is the way what appeared to be a very close relationship that developed, an improper relationship between the feds and her team afterwards, which suggested that whatever initially got that meeting might have been a little bit more, because the feds seem to really, as Hank Brennan put it, put the thumbs on the scales, which is very unusual here, very unique, that they put, Josh Levy himself questioned witnesses before the grand jury here. Very, very unique and unusual, weird, wild stuff, as Johnny Carson might have said. So as we dig through this, we were looking for that kind of smoking gun of a connection there. Does that sound right where I have that so far?
Yeah, and I would. It's the close the only thing I would kind of say is I do find it a little bit improper.
Did I lose you, Kate?
Oh no, can you hear me?
Let's see. Did I lose my? I don't hear anything.
Hold on. So he can't hear me. Can anyone else hear me? I'm lighting up like I'm talking.
I'm just making sure it's not my. Let me test my head. Let me test my ear jacks.
Sorry. Oh yeah, so everybody else can hear me. So
I see Kate movement on the thing, so she's. You can hear both of us, so I just can't hear it. Oh, let me check see what's going on with my audio.
Oh, good Lord, we're gonna get called low budget now. Oh no.
I don't know why it shut down.
How about now?
Hold on one second, guys. Let me try to. I'm not sure how to do. For some, my headphones are connected. You can hear Kate, but can you hear me?
Yeah, everyone can. Well, he can't hear me, so I can't tell him that everyone can hear him too. I'd like to take this opportunity while Kevin is working on his headphones to just, if you guys aren't aware, there's this guy named Will Henry Lang. He goes by the Glare, and he beat his disabled son. That is something that happened, as well as a dog, and he was flash banged out of a house that he was squatting in. So there's documentation on Twitter. You can definitely look it up. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'll post it later.
So I want to ask a little bit of help for. So I took off my headphones, which means I'm going from the audio from my laptop, but that can sometimes create like a feedback thing. So please alert me right away in chat if anything sounds like you hear some strange feedback, and I'll try to.
You're good.
You're good. Okay. Yeah. I don't know what. Really weird. The headphones all of a sudden just weren't doing it. So, okay. So I missed what you said, but I'm glad you were there to pick up the ball.
No, I was just there to, just take a real quick left turn and just educate the public about a dangerous man, by the name of Will Lynch. That's all.
Oh, the
Will
glare. I
Levy.
don't know.
Yeah,
I haven't even heard his name in a long time. I have no idea what he does.
you don't really
Um,
follow child abuse cases, I guess. Anyway, but um, I'll
so
write
let me bring on. I want to play a couple of clips of Dr. Wolf, and this is during the voir dire of last April, so before the second trial. And it's hard to tolerate watching him because this has to be one of the most smug, arrogant human beings I can remember. All right, again, so please, anybody let me know if there's any kind of a feedback issue or anything like that.
Relationship. I think that I reached out to Mr. Jackson. Like I said, I think it looks like about a month had passed, and I had let him know that I had spoken to the DOJ and got clarification on moving forward.
So in April of 2024, you reached out to the defense and said that you had permission or a green light to move forward in the relationship with the defense in this case.
I had clarification from the Department of Justice, yes.
And that clarification allowed you then to work with the defense on this case.
Not work with, we could be called on the defense's behalf to testify. And for that matter, the common
I can know. Oh, you're muted, Kevin.
Sorry, I just want to interrupt real quickly here. Just so what he's going to do now is very arrogantly try to keep resisting any possible idea that he is not independent, that he's just another expert that's hired by a defense or a prosecution. I mean, look, experts that are hired in a trial, they're advocating for one side or the other. That's just the way it is. But these guys were unusually and uniquely presented as independent because they supposedly were hired they were hired initially by the U.S. government. And the U.S. government is, in theory, supposed to be independent. They're not supposed to be on a side. But as Hank Brennan pointed out, they clearly were here. Anything on that before I start playing again, Kate?
No, you got it all.
Okay.
Commonwealth could have also contacted us and utilized us at trial as well, if they should, please.
So when did you become an advocate for the defense?
Interesting.
Do you feel like you're an advocate for the defense?
No, sir.
Are you sure about that?
Sir, I'm on the science and the analysis that I've done. That's the side that I'm on.
You sure are. Because after that 424 call letting them know that the United States Attorney's Office gave permission for you to be called as a witness, you called them again that day, didn't you? Or they called you on the main line?
We may have exchanged a couple calls that day, yes.
Well, you did exchange a couple calls that day because we have at least some records. And when you called later that day,
Let me just push it forward a little bit. But so, he's going to keep doing this throughout. He's going to resist and keep trying to present himself as independent. And he is science, as the Karen Reed crowd likes to think. Science says.
And it's so crazy because he's easily one of the most evasive witnesses of the trial, right?
Yep.
And he's constantly being confronted with records that completely contradict what he's trying to say.
Yep.
But yet, people like Jen McCabe get branded as not credible. It's just crazy. It's just crazy.
It's just even weird to understand the trial process that way. That any expert on either side of a trial is independent or is science. No, it's an adversary system, and you have competing experts. In theory, at least the prosecution, their job is to get to the truth. So if they're doing it honestly, at least they're trying to present experts that should be more independent. Although, to be fair, that might not be the case with a lot of prosecutions either. But certainly in the case of a defense, their job is to get their client off. Their job is not to get to the truth.
Right.
that you sent to the court in response to the court order. Did you have actual records?
What do you mean in terms of actual records?
Well, I see like a summary chart that was developed. Who developed that summary chart?
So that was, again, as I mentioned earlier, I was unfortunately unable to pull anything from T-Mobile. I just could not get access. Then what I did is I logged into my personal Verizon phone records, and I was able to go back for 3 months. I couldn't get back to December, and then I downloaded the spreadsheets, and I extracted those rows and provided that.
Did you provide the actual records or just the spreadsheet?
Well, I provided the spreadsheet, which was pulled from the records. I would have had to redact a lot of phone numbers if I was to put in the full extraction, if you will.
So you didn't provide the full extraction.
I provided the full extraction as it relates to all of the contact between myself and Mr. Jackson and Miss Little.
Did you ever delete texts?
From last year?
Yes.
Yes.
After you had text messages with the defense, did you delete those texts?
Yeah, after the trial concluded, I mean, that's something I routinely do. I'm not going to keep texts from Mr. Jackson, especially.
He'll never give you you give him a yes or no question. He'll never answer it. You know, he's just always going to dodge out of it. And I could see doing that a little bit, but you know, to the point that he does it, it's ridiculous. And you know, he's saying the trial is over, but he also knows there's going to be a second trial.
Actually, now that we're past a year, I would have no reason to keep those, sir.
I'm not asking for the excuse. I'm asking if you did it. Did you delete texts?
Again, it's something that I typically do. I communicate with attorneys all the time, whether it's for trial or inspections. I don't have
around 100 text messages between you and the defense.
It would have been some time after the trial, probably before I got my new phone in November, but it would have been probably in the month or two after the trial.
Where were you when you were deleting these texts? Were you at your office, at home? Do you remember sitting down and deciding intentionally you were going to delete over 100 texts? Where did that decision happen?
I have no idea, sir.
You can't remember deleting over 100 texts?
Sir, I just said I delete texts routinely. You're asking me to specifically give you a location at a time when I deleted those. I don't recall that.
He's deleting texts that he knows there will be a court order to save.
Right. And I mean, it's not, I mean, the retrial was announced the same day that the jury hung. And I mean, his wife was in the Facebook group. His wife was in the Facebook group.
Again, I enter my time so that the company can keep track of my time. Yes.
When you came out here and made travel arrangements, did you have any conversations with anybody from the defense?
About the travel arrangements?
Yeah.
Yes.
And as far as the travel arrangements, who on the defense was trying to help you with travel arrangements?
I believe it was Mr. Jackson.
Was there other people, associates, colleagues that were helping you as well?
None that I had direct communication with. I don't know if he communicated with others after that.
Was there a person named Kat? You ever hear that name before?
This name's going to come up again tonight, right, Kate?
Yes, it is.
I believe that, yeah, she may have escorted me into the courtroom, I think.
Well, you don't believe, because that's a pretty particular name. So when you use words like you believe, you know. So did you meet a person by the name of Kat?
I'll allow it.
I think when I arrived here, yes.
Remember that name, Kat, everybody.
Well, without qualification, the simple question is, you've met Kat, haven't you?
I think I met her. It was either at the...
Couple more clips to play.
I never discussed this with him. This is something that I sent to him, that I did on my own, and that I sent to him. But he never asked this of me, and we never discussed it.
So you sent him what you thought would be the best questions and answers that he asked you to testify.
So this is something I routinely do when I work.
Do you want to refresh, Kate? Do you remember this part? When Dr. Wolf helped prepare during the first trial? He helped prepare. He was so proactive that he was helping the defense anticipate questions that the prosecution might ask and how to avert them.
Yep.
Work with attorneys. Okay, I prepare this on my own to prep myself and prepare for trial.
There's an email with a document like the exhibit.
Okay. Exhibit 1.
Thank you. So you assisted the defense in anticipation of your testimony by sharing with them the questions and answers you thought would be most helpful.
Again, as I mentioned, this is something that I do internally to prepare. I sent that to him.
I mean, you got to watch this exchange. It's unbelievable.
The evening before I testified at 6 p.m. I presume that he already had his direct examination done at that point. So I sent that to him. Yes.
That's a lot of answers other than the one for my question. The one for my question.
Hold the comments, please.
My question was, you had communications offering information to the defense before you testified in a way that you thought would help the testimony, didn't you?
Well, first off, I have no idea if he even read it or utilized anything from it.
But that's not really answering the question I just asked, is it?
Can you repeat the question?
Of course I can. So when you sent a direct examination to Attorney Jackson before your testimony, you communicated with Attorney Jackson, providing information that you thought would best help your testimony in court.
Well, I think ultimately it's to help the jury understand my report and my analysis.
Do you think it's helpful not answering the question and just diverting every time I ask you something? Do you think that's helpful? Do you want to answer my question, or do you want me to move on?
I think I answered your question.
I don't think you did, so I'll ask it one more time.
All right, no comments, please.
Do you think that providing a direct examination to the defense before you testified is in any way assisting preparing for your testimony?
Again, I don't know if he even utilized it, sir. And certainly if the Commonwealth had reached out, they could have gotten a copy of that as well. It would have been the same exact outline whether I testified on behalf of the defense or behalf of the Commonwealth.
You don't want to answer my question?
He does not.
Did you ever make any comments
He never
or
answered it.
discuss the outline that you provided to the defense to help better the testimony for the defense?
I did put comments, yes.
When I just showed you that document, you said you just sent it because this is a standard thing. Why didn't you just tell us that you made comments that would assist the defense? Why didn't you share that when I just asked the question?
I don't understand your
You
question.
don't understand my question. I asked you about the outline, the direct examination you provided to the defense, and you gave me a response that this is something typical, but it's just an outline. You wouldn't answer whether it would help the defense or not, but the reality is you were assisting the defense, isn't it?
I'm going to allow that.
You were making suggestions to help the defense, weren't you?
Sir, it wasn't to help the defense. It wasn't to help anyone but the jury understand things. As I just mentioned.
All right. I'm going to, then I go one more segment to go to, but this is just, I got to believe that even somebody in FKR would not fall for this, that this guy is not independent. He's just not, he's so disingenuous here. It's just stunning to me. Are you stunned by any of that, Kate?
Well, no, because I would assume that he's very, I just want to help the jury understand, right?
Yeah.
Understand the defense's viewpoint. That's what it is, right?
That's all I care about, really.
I mean, he is so smug and so evasive. It's just, it blows my mind that he was heralded as this authority of truth and science and a credible witness. It really does blow my mind.
It's just unbelievable. I mean, I can't, I don't even know. Listen, if I was watching a witness like that for the prosecution, I would immediately say, yeah, this guy's being evasive. It's not hard to understand. It's not hard to follow. You don't have to be a partisan to not be able to see it.
I believe I met him that day, yes.
Let's get to
You were
the
asked whether or not you had ever discussed at trial now, after the voir dire, on June 24th, you were asked whether you ever discussed the substance of any of your testimony. Do you remember that?
Correct.
And so when you shared
I'll speed it up
questions
a
and
little.
answers and suggestions by email, was the statement under oath, you and I have never discussed the substance of your testimony. Is that still truthful?
We never discussed it, sir. Again, I sent it to him on my own behalf. There was no discussion that took place between Mr. Jackson about that.
You made comments after this was exchanged.
That was sent with the comments, sir.
And then you were asked whether you had ever been paid by the defense. You said no. You were later paid by the defense, weren't you?
ARCA did send an invoice afterwards, yes.
Did you talk to ARCA about that? About the billing in this case?
No.
You submitted your bill? Yes?
ARCA submitted the bill?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Klein, he was involved in the testing you did, wasn't he?
Yes.
Just to remind,
Why is it that Mr. Klein didn't come in?
sorry, just to remind what this is about. During the first trial, he testified that the defense wasn't paying him. They weren't paying ARCA. And yet they were sending a bill to him. So it was clearly just another lie. But that's why it's important. It goes to his credibility.
And join you. Who made that decision for trial?
Well, I think it was around, again, when we were talking about those June calls, I think then you'd be able to understand that.
Well, it would be easy to understand if you could just tell us what the conversation was. That's what I'm asking you about.
I'll allow it.
When you had a conversation with the defense, did you tell them the role that Mr. Klein played in your investigation and in your conclusions?
Again, I told him that we are both accident reconstructionists.
Okay. And he chose you instead of Mr. Klein. Did you say there was a difference between you and Mr. Klein and what you did?
No, again, we were both a part of the testing. We were both a part of the review. So we had exactly the same role, essentially.
Did you tell him that?
No, I told him that we were both accident reconstructionists.
And you remember that's all you said about it?
Yes.
During the voir dire and the trial, did you get to watch any of the Commonwealth's experts?
No, I don't believe so.
Did you ever communicate with the defense about any questions and answers that could or should be asked?
No, but I will note that during the entirety of the first trial, the Department of Justice was closely watching it, and we had certainly a direct line of communication with them that they were giving us and providing us information about the trial as it was ongoing.
Did you ever communicate with the defense about questions and answers to ask?
So that was the important thing. And unfortunately, I think, Kate, that it seems like now, as soon as this, I remember watching this and I was blown away as soon as he said that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. The U.S. Attorney's Office? Yeah, for some reason he wanted to say that instead. He prefers to say DOJ. I think that might be another way of him to try and distract us from the truth. But I was blown away by that. But I don't think the average person in the media even understood, or certainly nobody in FKR land understood what they were hearing, how big that was. And Hank didn't really jump on it either.
Right. Well, I mean, it's voir dire, so I mean, I don't know how effective it would have been if he did. It's clearly wildly improper. I'm sure that Cannone understood what she was hearing, right? Which is really the only thing that matters, and she still admitted him anyway for whatever reason. But I mean, that is insane, because they are in the course of this breaking a state sequestration order. Number one, they are, for a neutral, uninvolved party, really, really, really essentially working for the defense at that point.
Right.
Working for the defense. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Right. I mean, it just is, you have a sequestration order, which is standard for a trial, and there's no way that one side's experts are supposed to know what the other side's experts are testifying. They're sequestered. They're not supposed to follow. Witnesses are not supposed to follow what's going on with the other witnesses. And Dr. Wolf understands this. That's pretty much what he does for a living. Is not science. He testifies in trials. That's what he does. When he's not building when he's not building taillight cannon or cocktail glass cannons.
Why were they I mean, so they're supposed to be separate parallel investigations, right? Which I was talking to someone earlier, and I got this information from an attorney out of state. I can't really say much more than that, but they had they have done some work pretty regularly with their state DOJ office, and had asked the question at one point, and was told that it's unheard of, never happened in this particular state at all. Right. That a parallel investigation, goes on at the same time as a state investigation. It just doesn't happen.
Right.
And then on top of that, if they're parallel and separate, what does whatever going on in that courtroom, in that state courtroom, have anything to do with the federal government? They were paying people to watch that trial and report to a defense expert.
Exactly. Why? Right. Why were they watching? Why were they reporting that? In fact, at this point, they had already cut Arca Go so they could go work for the defense. So what was their interest in it?
Right. So that's a good point too, though, is that this witness that is now a defense witness no longer has a relationship with the DOJ in relation to this case, but they're still coordinating on it. That's right. Insane. It's anyone crazy. Should take issue with it. I cannot imagine if it was happening, conversely, to a defendant that you like. People would be upset by that. There's a reason why there's a separation.
Right. Now, I don't know if, there are questions of, I'm not a lawyer when it comes to legality. People might say that these laws don't apply to the federal government. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not sure if whoever in the U.S. Attorney's Office was doing this, was it Adam Deach? We don't know. Were they violating any kind of a law? But I would say that Dr. Wolf was violating sequestration, even just listening to that, don't you think? He's who the sequestration order applied to.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, yeah, obviously. And I'm sure that he was aware of it. There's no way that he wasn't aware of it. He was definitely noticed. I think he testified during voir dire that he was I can't remember if he said that he was noticed or not, but I would assume that he knew about it. And it was definitely, the defense's job to make sure that he definitely knew about it, right? Because they're beholden to this order as well. But I mean, that's dwarfed by the fact that you've got the federal government monitoring a state murder trial.
Right. as
to
Hank said, putting it
coordinate with
on the
a
scale.
defense
Why?
expert. I mean, it's insane.
Right.
Every time I think about it, it's mind-boggling.
And this is what we're going to reveal tonight, which may take us a step closer. But the answer is why? Why is the federal government so insistent on taking a side in that case? And by then, they had completed their investigation. They had left it officially ongoing so that the defense could exploit that word. But there was no further investigation going on. Nothing had been going on. And they had found no evidence of a cover-up. And they went as far as to get the communications of all the people in the house. And they found no evidence of a conspiracy, no evidence of a...
Exactly. I mean, that's all the resources of the federal government, an entire grand jury, proceeding, right? Talk to everybody, drag them in, get their everything, go over the evidence, and no arrests, no targets, no indictments, nothing. Just case closed. We found nothing.
And this is the idea that
coordinate, right?
Yeah.
With the defense.
And and the idea that ARCA is science and they are independent. For some reason, there's no question that ARCA understands their biggest client is the U.S. government. And they understood that for some reason, they probably didn't know why, and we're trying to find out why ourselves, the Department of Justice has chosen a side here, corruptly chosen a side here. And we're going to get more into this. All right. Maybe this is the appropriate point to start the turn. And we'll try to back this up. We're going to do our best with these images because we have a lot. And but they're difficult to see on the media assets. So thank God Kate is much better at me. So hopefully her eyes are better. And I got my glasses.
We'll get it done. Are these sequential? Are we starting at the bottom?
No, they're not in any way sequential. They're sequential in the way that we were posting them earlier on Discord.
Okay.
And I think that's why my speakers cut out, because I had the Discord on, but
right.
It must have somehow tapped into it. But anyways, so we have all the goods here. You have to be patient with us as we find them. So, but first we want to go into who exactly is Adam Deitch, who quit the U.S. Attorney's Office and is now running for District Attorney Morrissey's seat. And he's running on a Karen Reed platform. Let's bring up, actually, I know I'll be able to probably spot this one best. One of his most recent campaign headlines, where he shows newspaper headlines, and the top one is a Boston Globe one.
Yeah, I got it right here.
You got it? Okay. That's the one. Yes. I knew you'd find it. All right. This is posted by the campaign of Adam Deitch on Twitter. And the top headline there is, he investigated the Norfolk DA's investigation into Karen Reed. Now he wants to run the office. This is what he's running on, but he's doing it in a clever way. He's not going to go out and talk about what role he did, but he's going to run it with those headlines, and he's going to try to exploit his role here, because the Karen Reed people still think the federal government is coming to their rescue. It's better. Santa Claus has a better chance of coming to their rescue. But this is what this guy is running on. And in addition, let me pull this up too, Kate. Girl with an Eagle Eye. I went over this on the show the other day, but this is still pretty interesting stuff. I don't know if you heard me go over this, but she did some excellent research, because this is public information. First of all, she clipped this morning Turtle Boy talking. I'm not going to play it, but for the first time, Turtle Boy addressed something I've talked about many times, and this is the fact that the federal government used a blown-up version of TB Daily News when it interrogated the witnesses. And very strangely, Turtle Boy has ignored us talking about this for months. He finally addressed it here. And so if you go
I haven't even heard this yet.
Let me see it's one of these four, but I'm not sure which one it is. So, all right, I'll try this one.
And that's true. A lot of this corruption that's been exposed is from me. If what Plevin is saying is true, which I do assume this part, Plevin just makes shit up. But I'm assuming
I don't make anything
true, of course, because he talks to the McAlberts, right? And like he has said before, and I have not addressed this because I have no way to validate. I need source, But he has said before that at the grand jury, when, I don't know, who was it, Colin or Jennifer McCabe, or one of them was at the federal grand jury, that Deitch, or was it Levy, one of them put up a graphic,
both of them,
of a Turtle Boy Daily News article on the projector, and like entered it into evidence. And so obviously one of the witnesses saw
They didn't
this and
enter it
went
into
and
evidence.
reported
They
it back
used
to
it to
Levy. Now,
question.
that's hearsay, obviously. We don't know that as a fact because grand juries are sealed. Witnesses can talk about what happened with their experiences at the grand jury, but it's not like I can go down to the courthouse and say, I want to see the grand jury transcripts. I want to see everything that was entered into evidence, etc., because it did not end in an indictment. So therefore, it's like, if it didn't end in an indictment, then what was I going to say? Then like none of that stuff should see the light of day, So, but if that's true, if the federal government is actually using my articles to attempt to seek indictments against certain individuals, first of all, pretty cool. Not a lot of people can say that. I would think that kills the whole "this doesn't matter" thing. But more importantly, it shows that they know who I am.
All right, that was all. That was the only thing I think that he referenced on that. But what
I'll
took him
tell
so
you,
long to address it?
As of today, they know who he is. I'll tell you that much because he's been leaking federal documents. Whoops.
Oh, I think they already knew who he was. But what you want to talk about that before you want to talk about what he's been leaking, or?
Oh yeah, no, there's TUI materials that he's been leaking. There's one that's posted to the internet. There's apparently more that, thankfully have not been posted, but yeah, it's they found that jury, the grand juror, right? From social media posts on Twitter. So I would assume this will go the same way.
Okay. All right. So she did this work on the finance of Adam Deitch's campaign. So out of a total of 258 contributors, 129, so roughly half are from Massachusetts, and only 50 are from Norfolk County. Of the money given, about 38,000 was from people from Massachusetts, and only 11,000 was from people from Norfolk County. But $15,000 came from California. Why does somebody from California care about a local district attorney's race? Now, we know that not only did Alan Jackson contribute the max, but his partner did. Why would Alan Jackson? And I think that's listed here. She's the one that found this. She's the one that did the great work. His partner his name is Mark Workman down the bottom here, or Worksman, if you can see it down the bottom. So Max Worksman from California, Alan Jackson's partner, is a max contributor to the campaign of a local DA. Why? What is their interest? I mean, everybody's buying access, but why so many people from California? And the next highest state was New York, which $14,000 were contributed. So there's more money from California and from New York coming in to the campaign of Adam Deitch than there is coming in from Norfolk County. And of course, Karen and her dad and just everybody connected, everybody that from the Karen Reed campaign, everybody from the Karen Reed, whatever you want to call it, FKR, has heavily campaigning for Adam Deitch. They're always posting on Twitter, and they've given a lot of money to it. David Yannetti and his spouse. But that makes sense to me because he's a local lawyer. I can at least understand that. But all this money from California does not make sense to me. It strikes me as odd and corrupt.
It makes sense to me in his base is free Karen Reed, which is going to be somewhat spread out. Obviously, Karen and her attorneys have somewhat of a vested interest in getting him in office, for the publicity of it all, for themselves, as well as I'm sure that he would come in and shut down any investigations into them and kind of wrangle that in for them.
Right.
Because they've done a lot for him. They're essentially the reason that he's even running. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So why is this, why is it that we say that he's done a lot for them? I mean, isn't he just a good old honest federal prosecutor?
No, I mean, he was coordinating with a defense expert.
Right. So this is what Norfolk County is getting. Someone that I would call corrupt.
Oh, I mean, 100%.
People can debate about what the word means. I'm trying to be careful and fair here. But this is what you're getting in Norfolk County. You're getting someone that's dirty. All right. So that's who Adam Deach is. Now, let me just make sure. Is there anything else we want to say about Adam Deach? And then we can go for the reveal here, Kate.
I think we should go for the reveal because his political ambitions are directly tied into this. You know?
Okay. As I revealed on my show the other night, Adam Deach's campaign manager is a guy named Michael Lones. Michael Lones is married to a woman named Ann Peruti. She keeps her maiden name for a professional name, who is an assistant prosecutor for the U.S. Attorney's Office. She's a Fed. In fact, she is the one who prosecuted the case against the grand juror, and who recommended that the grand juror only be sentenced to 1 day. Everybody I talked to when that came down was stunned. And this is why most people figured that the grand juror had become a cooperator into a larger investigation, perhaps into Turtle Boy, and they got all excited. Former FBI people that I've been talking to, and because they just couldn't believe, because it's such a serious violating. Leaking a grand jury is considered to be such a serious offense that they couldn't believe that they were only asking for 1 day, and the judge couldn't believe it either. So she upped it, or he, I don't know if it was a she or he, upped it to 30 days. But still,
it was house arrest. No, she was put on house arrest.
1 day 30 days house arrest, which was still more than the 1 day.
Correct.
Was
time served, waived, not even time served, just waived.
So it does seem like the prosecution was trying to give her a cushy deal, and we don't know why. And again, like I said, people that I talked to thought it was because she was a cooperating witness, but it now looks like maybe it's just part of this dirty system that was here. All right. So what we learned about Ann Peruti, is the bombshell here. Ann Peruti, whose husband is managing the campaign of Adam Deach, who ran the Karen Reed investigation and probably was the one who was behind the feeding of information to ARCA. We don't know that. But that would be a reasonable guess, him or somebody close to him, and probably had heavy communications and improper communications with the Karen Reed team. She graduated high school with Karen Reed. That's the bombshell. It's not proof. We don't know if there was any kind of messaging between Karen Reed and Ann Peruti, but they went to a Catholic high school. Do you have any images here that we can put? Let's see. We have a whole bunch of images that we can put up. Probably any one of them would apply, Kate. I'll just pick one randomly. All right. I believe this is a picture of Karen Reed with Ann's twin sister, Trisha. Is that correct? Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is with Kat. Now, Kat is on the friend list of Trisha. Are you with me, Kate? Are you helping me navigate all this? So we'll show on another list that Kat is connected to the Perutos. Okay, Kate's got to step out for a second to pick up one of her children, and then she'll be right back. Let me just... Okay, she's picking up her son, so she will be back. All right, that's okay. I can carry through these things. I can't see the images that I've loaded here until I put them in. So Trisha Peruti. All right, so this here shows that she is friends with Kat, and Kat is the one that was referenced earlier that was sent to pick up the witnesses, including Dr. Wolf. So Kat was very, very close to the Karen Reed effort here, FKR. And Kat was on the friend list of Trisha Peruti, who is a twin sister of Ann Peruti, who's a U.S. attorney. Now, the Perutis come from a line of prestigious attorneys, Ann Peruti's dad and other siblings. You see, this is another list here that Kat is on the friend list of Trisha. Again, these connections aren't smoking gun, and you're not going to get an actual message between. And we'll get here to the school they went to, and I had to confirm this to make sure that she was from the same class. The school is called Cass. Hopefully, I'll get to the image eventually that it has, because I forgot the name of the school. Actually, let me go into one of my emails on that where I can confirm that too. Thank you for being patient. Coyle and Cassidy is the name of the school. So Ann Peruti and Karen Reed attempted the school of Coyle and Cassidy. I'm looking at the image here. Let me see if I can load this onto the screen for you guys. Thank you for being patient. It's trying to load this. Sorry, guys. All right. So this is just, I had multiple researchers working on this. This is just one of it. Coyle and Cassidy High School from January 1994 to December 1998. And then she went on to Colby College. This is Ann Peruti. And that's also where Karen Reed went to high school. And that high school closed a few years later. Let's see what this one is. That's another one, Coyle and Cassidy. She went to Northeastern University Law School.
Sorry, Kevin, I had to jump in the car and I'll be back to my computer in a minute. But Kat is a friend of it's a mutual friend between Karen and Ann's sister, whose name is Trish. Yeah.
Yes.
Trisha.
Yeah. Here's another one that shows that Trisha, who is a twin sister, her high school diploma was in 1998. So she also was there at the same time as Karen. Now I should have found out. I wonder what the average size. I wonder what the size of their graduating class was.
Well, I mean, we know that Trisha and Karen were friends, right? Because we have those screenshots as well.
They attended. In fact, Karen attended Trisha's wedding. Let's see if we can find that here. And also, we learned that Adam Deach and Peruti headed a prosecution together for a bunch of pedophiles. So they've not only worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office, they worked closely together on at least one case.
I mean, they're close enough that her husband is managing his campaign.
And that too. Ann Peruti, Chief Major Crimes Unit at the U.S. Attorney's Office. And again, we're not, I'm not saying that she's not a great citizen and an upstanding citizen. I have no idea. But the suspicion here is that she certainly knows Karen. She went to an exclusive high school, would have been a relatively small graduating class. She's there as twins, so that would make her stand out. Karen is gone to the wedding of her sister Trisha, and presumably Ann would have been at the wedding of her sister too. Maybe again. So am I leaping to conclusions there? I guess, but it seems to be a reasonable conclusion.
Well, I mean, I don't know. We know at least the one. It could be that she's friends with the sister and therefore just, barely acquainted with Anne. To be fair, this is a stronger, more direct connection than the Alberts and Proctor, though.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, exactly. We don't know, or another example would be the firefighter McGoffin and her connection to Katie. They knew each other in high school. That's their relationship beyond that was pretty limited. but for the defense, they were best buddies.
Right. And, yeah, they can't pull up comments like Karen's where she's gushing about the wedding and how, Trisha and her husband are much more photogenic than Karen and Tej, who was her boyfriend at the time. So I would say that this is a more direct connection. And I guess that's where it's got me kind of tearing my hair out, because the defense, orchestrated this entire defense around the idea that these tangential connections between Proctor's sister and Colin's aunt somehow created this gigantic conflict, and it was proof positive of some type of corruption. And here you have a direct familial relationship, right? Between Karen Reed and the twin sister of this U.S. attorney whose office then meddles in her murder case. And, Deitch is in there too. And there's obviously a close enough relationship between Peruti and Deitch that her husband is managing his campaign right now. And they were all involved with Karen Reed.
And guess where Trisha worked? I'm sure you remember, Kate.
Well, I know already, but
yeah. I got it on the screen. Yeah. Fidelity Investments. Trisha worked at Fidelity Investments, same as Karen Reed.
Right. And also Peruti's husband went to Bentley. So, yeah. What's the word they like to use about incestuous? It's starting to feel a little incestuous, as they would say.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, I mean, are we making a reach here? No. I mean, is there a smoking gun? It exists somewhere. We don't have it yet, and those are private communications. It's, we shouldn't have access to private communications. That's why you don't go in. That's why what the feds did was so wrong. But I think reasonable people here would say, yes, Karen certainly had enough of a connection to Ann Peruti to have gotten that meeting with Josh Levy. That's a reasonable inference. It's not proven by any means, but it's a reasonable inference. And that's the beginning of what became a highly irregular and improper relationship, a dirty relationship. This was the child pornography case that was prosecuted by Ann Peruti and Adam Deitch. So they worked together on that case. That was an article there that our great researchers found.
Yep, we have Karen Reed cooperatively pushing this campaign for Adam Deitch too, and so I think that it's just so he wouldn't have been able to run, really, if not for Karen Reed, right? Like that's what elevated him up, and that's now the platform that he is running on, right? And then she's also donating to him, and then she's also sharing his stuff on social media, and her parents are donating, and at the same time we have this connection that links right not only to the U.S. Attorney's Office, not only right to Adam Deitch, but to his political ambitions as well, and it comes right back directly to Karen Reed,
right?
Black and white, no question.
And this is one of the reasons that I had always speculated, and I think probably we had talked about this so many times privately on the phone. I think maybe you agreed with this too, was your idea as well, that when Karen got that meeting with Josh Levy with her attorneys, what happened was they made Josh Levy, they appealed to his ambition. He saw future headlines out of this. And now look at this. When I say future headlines, well, look at what Adam Deitch is doing. They didn't even find a conspiracy. And Adam Deitch is still running on that. So you can imagine how much they could run on this had there been an actual conspiracy that they had found, that they had uncovered. So this is what they saw, and this is how they managed to get them on board. And once they were on board, they couldn't turn back because they're not people of integrity. Now, is that the kind of people you want running justice in Norfolk County? And where does he go from there? If he wins that election, does he eventually run for state attorney general? Does he then run for governor? You don't know where these people go. You have to nip it in the bud.
Right. And I think there's also a certain level of like, I don't know if nepotism is the word, but you have this relationship. And I cannot stress enough that, what was drawn on to create the illusion of some sort of conflict and relationship between Michael Proctor and the nebulous Albert family, right?
Mhm.
It was always twice removed, right? So, oh my
Mhm.
God, Michael Proctor's mother said that the Alberts were her second family, right? It has nothing to do with Brian or Chris, right? Or
Right.
Colin or anyone who was there that night in that house at any point. It has to do with Michael Proctor's mother talking about Chris and Julie Albert, who weren't even at the house, right?
Right.
Um, and that was enough for them. This is Karen Reed directly talking to, in a very familiar tone, openly on Facebook, Trish Peruti, right, who is the twin sister of this U.S. Assistant District Attorney, right? So,
Yep.
like, this is a lot more direct. If you raised eyebrows at Michael Proctor's mother and sister having a relationship with, Chris and Julie Albert, after Michael Proctor was, a full grown man out of the house with a
Yeah.
family of his own, by the way.
Young
So he's
Colin
not,
being at a pool party or something like that, I mean,
right. If that's a big deal, this should be a huge deal,
yeah.
Because if it's a conflict on the state level, surely it's a conflict on the federal level, right?
Yeah. And we ask people out there, this is, find us the information, find us more evidence that shows the connection between Karen and Ann. If there are pictures together, maybe they went to other weddings together. Maybe Karen went to Ann's wedding, that would be interesting if she went to Ann's wedding, and her husband is now managing Adam Deitch's campaign. So, help us find that stuff, because this is important. It's not just about a side. It's not just about, oh, you're on one side or Kate's on one side. No, this matters. This should matter to citizens. If you have a corrupt federal government, if you have a dirty federal government, there's nothing more scary than that. So, I mean, now Josh Levy's out, Adam Deitch is out. So hopefully it's run more cleanly there now. And it seems to be they put a stop to the investigation. So, but we don't really know what goes on there. And that's why it's so important to expose things that we do find out. When you find wrongdoing, it has to be exposed. It has nothing to do with disliking Karen. It has everything to do with just wanting to get the truth.
Well, I think that's interesting too. It's more than just, it seems like the investigation is closed. There's a letter that indicates that the investigation is closed. There have been statements that were authorized by the DOJ, made by, Helena Rafferty and Hank Brennan in open court. Hank Brennan, stating that it's closed. And what I think is interesting about that, though, is it was closed when somebody outside of this tight little circle came in and assessed things with actual neutrality, right?
Right. And the other, so when Josh Levy left, he left in charge Mary Moraine as the acting U.S. attorney. And she's the one who told the defense who told David Yannetti that the investigation was ongoing. And of course, Leah Foley came in a couple of weeks later and said, what is going on here, and shut it down. Well, where's Mary Moraine got pushed out. And so she is now, not after spending her career with the U.S. Attorney's Office, she's gone. But where did she land? The Department of Justice in Washington, where she can still watch Levy's back. There's just it's a very political atmosphere up there.
Absolutely.
Let me go to chat and see if anybody has, and Kate, break in anytime you want. Let me just go to chat and see if anybody has any comments or things that they would like us first, I guess, to say some thank yous. Thank you, Super Earl Pinkney Gray. Thank you very much. Appreciated. And Molly Killarney, haven't seen you in a while. Good to see you. Thank you. And Sailboat Wolf, haven't seen you for a while either. Good to see you. And Pat said, the show we all come to since the very beginning for the truth. I don't always know the truth, but I always tell the truth. They're very different things, but I'm always honest.
We're trying to find it, right? It's just
Yeah.
unfortunate. Like, when you think about it, there's been a narrative that the media has purposely put out this entire time, right? Sometimes bending over backwards and just straight up ignoring major details, ignoring things that are established facts. The entire time that this has been going on, we have been digging and we've gotten somewhere, right? Like, right off the bat, I was called crazy for saying, oh, Karen Reed is feeding all this information to Aiden Carney. 3 years later, it still stands up. Most of
Mhm.
what Free Karen Reed says, it has not stood up over 3 years. It's been retooled, it's been changed, it's been tweaked, it's been reorganized. It's constantly evolving. I feel like you and we say something, and with very few exceptions, right? It stands the test of time indefinitely.
And I can tell people that, so I didn't know Kate before this case. And the first time she contacted me was after my so-called outburst episode when I talked about Turtle Boy. But, in my relationship with her over the last few years, she's never once been irresponsible about any information. And that's not to say that everything she's given me has been correct. No, but we're talking about information that is reported, which is different than information that we share and as part of a private conversation. And then over time, you see if that information works out to be vetted. But she's always been responsible with the information that she has and careful about what she puts out. James, thank you very much. Go ahead.
No, I think that how you started this off with, like, not having to be first, right? It's important. Like, it's not, you don't have to be the first person. It's not a rush to break every little tidbit that you get. It's important to slow down and vet things and really, build I hate to say build a case, because it's not really building a case, but build your story, get the verifiable facts, make sure that everything checks out, and then go with it. And sometimes, like today, it took I think from start to finish, it took a day and a half.
Yeah, we
to
worked
get
on it
here.
all day, but we were able to, because of the good people we have with us, we were able to get confirmation before I went to bed. So
Before I even opened my laptop.
yeah, and I would be willing to thank them publicly, but I never know who wants to be, because of the way this mob is. So I'm thanking you without mentioning your name. So those people that contribute to this, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and the work you've done is very important. And so just two more thank yous. Thank you to Julia. She says, thank you, Kevin. I cannot stomach the FKR crap. R.I.P. John O'Keefe. I feel so bad for the family. Yep, we all do. And then finally, this is a new name to me, Mickey Beach. It's okay for Karen to connect the dots of who know who witnesses, but not for anyone to figure out her friends and connections. Yeah, so we're laying it out there, and we're going to, hopefully people will continue to support us with more information, and we'll get closer to a smoking gun here, where we can actually, and even showing, for instance, let's say Karen did go to Ann's wedding party. That doesn't show that there was any kind of a corrupt relationship there, but the closer we get to nailing just what the relationship was, the better.
Well, this is a real trap, I guess, for Free Karen Reed, because if they want to argue against it being nefarious, then they are going to, by virtue of that, undercut all of their arguments about the supposed relationship that, prompted Proctor to cover up a murder.
Oh, we also found that Michael Lonez went to Bentley, where Karen Reed's father was a dean.
Yeah, I had said that. Yeah,
I think, didn't Trisha go to Bentley too, or somebody else?
Trisha went. She went to Coyle Cassidy. She went to, I think it was Holy Cross, and then Bentley for grad school. It would have been the same grad program. I think the times line up with Karen, and then went over to Fidelity. Which, granted, there's 5,000 employees just, I think, in Boston. In Fidelity, it's a very, very large company. So that in of itself, but we don't even have to really guess whether or not they have a personal relationship, because Karen has left comments on her Facebook page from 13 years ago. So it's a long-standing personal relationship.
KP says that he hears, or she hears, a horse galloping. So Kate is on horseback out.
It's my son. I just picked up my son from his band rehearsal, and he drums on everything. Sorry. I told him to stop.
I like the horseback story better. Chick from the Bricks this year. Good to see you. Chick from the Bricks. I was talking to anonymous masked lawyer the other day, and he said it was remarkable how well the chart that we had put together last year has held up over time. He said he was going to mention that in an article, but he didn't because he knows so many people out there say that me and him are the same person that he figured it best not to mention me. But he, that was the data that I put together, and I made it look sloppy, and you fixed it in that chart that looked really good. So thank you very much for your work, and just wanted you to know that he said it's held up pretty good. Looking through comments. All right, so I got through the thank yous, which means I can see the comments now. So let me know if we got a good audience here tonight. 444 people in YouTube. Always hard to know what the Twitter size is, but it says 1,300 people and 1,395. And then there's like 5 on Facebook. But so a good audience. So if you have any questions or comments, I'd be glad to highlight them or take them on.
Someone asks, can you imagine the messy flow chart that Grant would make about this?
It must be
No,
eating Grant alive.
He theorized. He actually put out bad information. He's yet again lying about me, which is very hurtful. And said that our big reveal was going to be that I have a recording of Karen Reed and Aiden discussing her being a cooperating witness with the DOJ. No such recording exists to my knowledge. I've certainly never received anything like that at all, nor is there any indication that she was a cooperating witness. In fact, all the information we have so far is that they didn't subpoena her. She wasn't, Jen McCabe and Chris Albert and Michael Proctor and Yuri Buchanan and Colin Albert and everybody who was called, they were cooperating witnesses. They received subpoenas and they testified. They were cooperating witnesses. That's what they were, right? Karen Reed did not. So she was not a cooperating witness at all. But I think that gets lost in a lot of it too. Even when I heard earlier that clip and Aiden's going, they used my blogs to try to indict people. No, they did not. They were witnesses. They weren't targets. They were established as not targets. No, there was no target in their investigation at all. The DOJ came out and said that. They made a statement that we have no targets. So they were always just witnesses.
Mm-hmm. Patrice asks, wouldn't Leah Foley have to sign off on that Jessica Leslie sentencing? I don't think so. I think that would be the prosecution puts in the recommendation and the judge. But I'm not a lawyer. If you have anything you want to add to that, Kate?
I know that state level district attorneys, if they make a recommendation, they usually have to get approval from their supervisors. I don't know how it works with the DOJ, where they have different units and people that head up the units. So she would go to the head of major crimes, unless she wasn't the head of major crimes, right? No, because it's interesting actually who replaced the head of major crimes.
Yeah.
But
yes.
right, very interesting who replaced them. But she would have to go to her, I think, at least her supervisor. I don't know about Leah Foley, though.
Yeah. Chick from the Brick says, can the O'Keefe subpoena and call these people as witnesses in the civil trial? You can't call the feds. I know that.
Yeah, I don't know. I've always wondered that about Adam Deitch now that he's private sector again, but I don't know. There's probably some sort of immunity to, the time that he was the acting U.S. attorney. So
Dawn Marie says we should address the numerous lies that Karen told in the Rotten Mango interview. I have not found the strength to watch that yet. I don't know if you have, so I have no idea.
I don't have enough hours right now to go over everything inconsistent that she told. I've been dripping them out a little bit. One of the biggest ones that was easy to prove, it was kind of lazy, why that's the first one I put out, was, she told this story about how she was arrested in June and she was in her pajamas, because that still is very traumatizing to her. Oh my God, right? The cops saw me in my pajamas and
before I had my first drink.
Right. Fucking ridiculous. But she tells this very long story about how, she has a closet full of professional clothes and she directed Yuri Buchanan to the room, to that closet. And he came back with ripped jeans and flip flops. And how could he do that to her? But when you actually watch the body cam footage, she specifically asked for the jeans at the foot of her bed. And when he asked what kind of shoe wear, she's like, I don't know anything. And I'm sorry, but no offense, Kevin, no offense, son, anyone, any males in the vicinity, but you ask a man for shoes and just tell him anything, 9 times out of 10, he's coming back with like the most inappropriate pair. Just like, what the fuck were you thinking? Right? It's just true, right?
Yeah.
Like you're asking a guy to go get your shoes for you. So he came back with flip flop. Probably the first thing he saw. I don't know, but the jeans in particular that she cried about. Oh, they were ripped jeans. They didn't even cover my ankles. Grass stains were specifically the jeans that she asked for. And I don't know where this lady even gets off thinking that you are entitled to the police going and retrieving a wardrobe for you, because they're not.
Mm.
Most of the time you get pulled out and like whatever you're wearing, and that's just that. He was nice enough to go back in and get the clothes for her that she asked for. So that's one lie that was really easy to debunk. But there's other. She mischaracterized data. She went back to deleted calls, answered calls. We know that they were actually answered by voicemail. They weren't deleted by the user. It's a cache thing. So there's a lot in there to dissect.
What do you
It
think
was a
about
very vapid interview too.
What do you think about the charge that the state didn't need to arrest Karen like that a second time? I think her
Oh
attorneys-
my God. Like, listen, you have a charge where you're exposed to life in prison. They're never going to just be like, yeah, sure, turn yourself in. Like, that's crazy. Come on. Like, they're coming to arrest you. It's a major indictment. Like, they're coming to arrest you. That's what's happening.
Mhm. I mean, I would say I don't know what the norm is, and what you just said makes absolute sense to me. And they should do whatever the norm is. Always do what the standard is. Never try, because then you don't have any perception of doing something that's biased, or, for instance, we're treating you differently because you killed a cop or something like that. So.
No, I mean, it's not, I don't think so at all. If anything, that was the smart decision to make. You have someone who has financial resources, who now is being upcharged, who is not very cooperative the first time around, right? Like, who's to say that David Yannetti wouldn't go, oh yeah, my client will be right down, and she hops a plane and goes over to Thailand or something, right? Like, she has the resources, and she definitely has the motivation rather than facing life in prison. So it just makes sense that you would go in and do an arrest. That's just what happens. I mean, it was a murder charge.
Mm-hmm.
It was a murder charge. Now we're advocating for people on trial for murder to just be able to waltz themselves into the police station at their convenience. Like, that's crazy. I'm sorry. But like, if you get charged with murder, people out there, I would definitely anticipate being arrested for that. That's just common sense.
And look, while she was out on bail, she managed to get to Florida, managed to fly to Florida. So Erin says, great job, Kevin and Kate. It takes a village to put all the pieces together. I love how many people are working towards this. So I should mention too, also, as soon as I started getting this information, obviously the first person I always would go to is Kate, and I did. But right after that, I went to the forensic team. I'm getting closer to getting their name down. The fantastic forensics. I don't know, but it's the forensic ladies. You know what I'm talking about. And they have some great researchers on their team. So I went to them right away to help out. And so they've been helping out all day. So you already know who they are. And I'm sure whenever they do their next show, they'll probably want to mention some of this. But to those ladies, thank you very much.
Yeah, we have an ace team on this. Ace.
Kevin and Kate, has anything happened with Karen's phones and getting her passcode? Anything new on that? Her second phones, I'm sure, is what is meant.
It's not public record anymore. So originally Cosgrove was filing that under Aiden's docket, and you could, get that from his court records. But now it's been moved off the docket, so it's not public that I'm aware of. I haven't been able to find anything, so I don't know. I suppose we'll get updates as she complains about it through her lawyer.
Mm-hmm. And what they're looking on those phones, this was from January of 2024, is evidence that she was conspiring with Aiden to intimidate witnesses, right?
Yeah, and do you have any clue what's on those phones they took? You have any clue? Yeah, that's what they're looking for, though. So there is an open investigation into conspiracy to commit witness intimidation.
Chick, I got your question. I think we already took it on, but as far as subpoenaing witnesses, I'm not sure which witnesses you mean. So they can subpoena. They can't anybody, pretty much anybody I would accept, except for someone that works for the U.S. Attorney's Office. Thank you, Joe. Oh, has anybody seen Thomas Fleming tonight? Hope he's all right. I don't think I've seen him in here. But thank you, Joe. Okay, this is for you, Kate from Brittany. Kate, when are we getting your next TV video?
I know I got to work on it tonight. Sorry, I had to do a pivot. I'm actually kind of in a public records war right now. I put in a request before the holidays, and I feel like I'm getting stonewalled. But I'm trying to get it done. I've had to pivot and change some things. It's just been some annoying revisions, but I don't mind. I'll take it in a slightly different direction. It will still impress what I want to.
Editing videos, especially the way Kate's doing it with putting in all that, that expert effects and stuff like that, is a tremendous amount of work. If anybody's never done it before, to realize it probably would take you at least a couple weeks to put those together, right? Or at least a week.
For every minute of edited video, it takes about an hour of work time, pretty much. Yeah. So if it's a 20-minute video, is 20 hours, but you got to remember that I'm working too. So I'm not like, I can't just focus on my projects because I always have a backlog. Always.
Yeah. Oh, this is a really nice offer, and I'm going to accept it. First of all, thank you, Christina. So the spiciest LRQ said, I have the transcripts if you don't want to listen to Karen's voice. I always prefer the transcripts. Kate knows I'm a document person. I'd rather read.
Yep.
Yes, please. Email them to me at leitskev, LEITSKEV, @gmail.com. And anybody can email me anytime with questions. Obviously, information is very much appreciated, but your own theories, even criticisms, if it's civil, I don't mind it. Boomer Live. Is that our Boomer?
Yep, that's our Boomer.
Oh, okay. I should have brought him in. I kind of forgot. He did such good work during the trial. I forgot about Boomer. How you doing, Boomer? If you have something you want to add to our conversation, you're welcome to join us. You're pretty much always welcome.
Boomer's the best. Oh, Cav, I'm gonna have to jump in a minute just because my night is wrapping up here, and I gotta.
When is your next? You do a lot of the spaces stuff there, and those are very popular. When is your next one?
Yeah, I think Truth Over BS might do one after this. So like once I throw some food down my kid's gullet, then I'll probably jump on that for a little bit.
So maybe about 9:00 tonight.
Give me 9:15. I gotta actually use the stove.
All right. I'm just trying to get caught up on the comments. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Oh, is there a connection between Nataly and the Perutis? So I texted Nataly last night to see if Karen had ever mentioned Anne, and she never had to Nataly's memory. So it's important to say that, to be fair, to be honest. I didn't neglect it. I just hadn't thought of it. But so I did. So Nataly was working very closely with Karen for several months or maybe a year on this. And at no point did Karen mention to Nataly anything about Anne Peruti. I don't want to talk about Grant too much, but I had to stop having him on my channel back when he was on our side just because he was reporting things that were false. It's that simple. I don't care what side you're on. You can't report things that are false. I remember when this was going on for a while, and initially when he was doing his reporting, he didn't have any sources except for me and Kate. And whenever he would say something that I knew we didn't have, and I'd be like, I wonder where he's getting this. And then I would say, finally, after like a month or two of that, I talked to Kate. I said, where is he getting this? Because that not only do we not have that, it doesn't even seem sensible. And then we realized he was just making stuff up. So I had to kind of cut him out after that. Why does Karen have jeans with grass stains? I want to know who brought Turtle Boy his Lexus. Well, we don't know, but he bought it with cash gave a weird story about it. And this happened just weeks after he started covering the case for Karen as her mouthpiece. And again, if you watch the Lifetime docudrama from this past Saturday, they completely misportrayed what went down between Karen and Turtle Boy. They made it sound like Turtle Boy ran a call-in radio show, and that people started calling in with suggestions about the Karen Reed case, and then eventually he started investigating on his own and just started doing all this on his own. And so Karen and her lawyers were just sitting there one day watching it on YouTube, and they said, "Wow, this guy's helping us out." No, that's not how it went down. Karen Reed and her team released their conspiracy theory in the application for Brian Albert's phone on April 12th, 2023. This was weeks after Rich Green got the data where he found stair climbing and 227 and all that stuff. And when it didn't cause any kind of a media splash, they were disappointed. So they figured they had to reach out and find their own. And there's no need to go into details here, but it involved Silvera, Karen's friend Silvera, and of course Nataly was part of these discussions, and they knew that Aiden's pit bull, Jen Altman, had been following this a little bit in social media and posting in ways that they liked. So they decided to reach out to Turtle Boy. So they recruited Turtle Boy. And we've seen the messages, but Turtle Boy was skeptical because people are going to try to use him, right? And he did ask initially as they were trying to recruit him some hard questions. But once Karen told him that the feds were on this and were going to make arrests imminently, that's when he flipped over. But he saw the opportunity is the bottom line. Now, we don't know if there was any discussion about Alexis. Karen's brother, we remember at the time, worked for a Lexus dealership. Karen drives a Lexus, and now Turtle Boy drives a brand new Lexus. Where did he get the money for that? We don't know. But they totally falsely portrayed that, and they also falsely portrayed the rolling rally. They made it sound like Turtle Boy was just going through a downtown area and in his car and shouting through the bullhorn out the window. Come on, that would be innocent. That's not what happened. They were going to people's houses in a residential area with hundreds of cars, blocking traffic, getting out of the cars. There was a couple of nurses that were spitting in the driveways, and Turtle Boy's on the bullhorn telling every neighbor that looked out their window that they were living next to murderers. That's what happened. And it was an act of terrorism against the families that lived there. Fortunately, most of them were able to abandon their houses get away ahead of time, but not all of them. And I have talked to people that had kids in the house and had to try to take those kids into areas where they wouldn't hear what was going on. That's what happened. That should have been the dramatic moment that they portrayed, but they didn't. So it was almost like the Lifetime story really was heavily influenced by Turtle Boy. I don't know if he had some influence there. Just looking through comments. We'll stay on a little bit longer. And so it sounds like at about 9:15 on, I think it's Twitter Spaces, you can find Kate. And some of you, if you like the way that format works there, if she lets you in, you can even go on and offer your own opinion. Troy, I don't know what to tell you, man. I know you're a good guy, but Grant doesn't report the truth. And I realized that when he was fully on our side, and that's why I turned him away. So even though he was saying things that allegedly helped my side, not that I have a side, but by then I had chosen based on the evidence what had happened. I just, as a matter of responsibility, I had to stop having him on my show because he wasn't reporting truthfully. And so that's just the case. And if you look at his rants now, I finally blocked him because it was too just crazy. But you can see their rants, and they're not from a mind that is well. And I'm not trying to. I wish him well, and he has some talent if it could somehow be directed, but he's not telling the truth, and that's important. I don't see really any difference in Grant between now and a year ago. But this is what started the feud with Roberta. I didn't mean for it to. And crazy Roberta is up there now, always saying all kinds of nutty things. And I didn't mention Roberta's name, and I treated her with nothing but respect. But she had gone. Grant had become a regular on her show and was bringing in a large audience because he is entertaining. And Grant on her show started saying bizarre things like that he could see into Karen Reed's heart, and he knew she was really a good person, but that Turtle Boy had manipulated her into all of this. That was nuts. That was obviously because whatever. He just says nutty things. You don't know where they come from, but it was irresponsible. And I pointed that out during a break during the first trial. And up to that point, Roberta had been in my chat all the time, and we always treated her respectfully. And at that point is the very day that she stopped. And then she started going after all of my witnesses. My guests. I used to have on Kevin Mahoney or Jen Coffenaffer, and she weirdly started viciously attacking them. I'm like, why is she going after them? And then she started coming after me. And the attacks were weird, like, because they were so not only not true, but anybody that doesn't even know me could see that they didn't make sense. They were bizarre. So there's another one. Her and Grant just aren't well. So I wish them nothing but full recovery. Yep, absolutely, Pat. He says Karen has her supporters dedicating their lives to fight pretend corruption while unknowingly reward real corruption. But I think some of them know. There's no excuse for them not to know. Kitty says that today's weed can cause psychosis, not like the old days. I don't know. Obviously I can't smoke anything with my condition, but I was never a big weed guy anyways. Is Thomas actually here? I still haven't seen him. But you got some love, Thomas, from Christina. We'll put that up on the board in case you're watching. Dreamboat reminds us that Karen left for Florida when they were coming for her phones. Yes, and it does seem suspiciously like she was tipped off. They were literally, the warrant came through that afternoon, and they were on their way to her house when they learned that she was actually at Logan Airport. Is that just a coincidence? I don't know. It does look like she got who tipped her off? Was it the feds? Don't know. Dawn says that me and Kate should collaborate for a nightly show together, especially through the civil trial. Well, I don't know if the civil trial is going to be years down the road, and Kate has become anti-streaming. So we were lucky to get her on tonight. But only because this was a big story, obviously. Karen Reed's, so James Clay said, thank you, James, says Karen Reed's attorneys and supporters ate all donating to corrupt Adam Deitch. I think he meant are all donating to corrupt Adam Deitch. That's called quid pro quo, folks. Yep. Buying access. Forensic room. I can never get it right. What did I say? Forensic team? If anybody from the forensic room is here, Tuesday's here. I was close. I was close enough tonight. I said forensic at least. That's the word I got definitely in my head now. Forensic with F-O-U-R. But the ladies were a big help researching this all day today. And I'm sure their next episode, they'll be talking about this and other related things. So check them out. If I knew when their next show was, I would tell you, but I don't know. Forensic. Yes, exactly. That's how you remember it. I'm so bad with names now. I can remember all the details of the Karen Reed case and many things, and I remember I can remember events in my life going back to kindergarten and earlier, but names I have a hard time with. I don't know why. Oh, that's a good idea. Marie Sweeney said, can Kate do a quick video of the connections so we can all share it? That's a very good idea. Some kind of a short video that shows this. Yeah, I'm gonna take that up with the forensic room ladies, and maybe someone else that's good with graphics like Chick from the Bricks can help us out with that too. Breathing deeply, yes. Forensic room, yep. Yes, Kevin cracked a case, but it's not like I was out hitting the streets. This is done with you. This is done with people listening to the show and coming back with information. And then it's my job to take it to other people that are better researchers than me and try to verify it. And that's all I did. I don't know how to do a lot of that research, and I'm able to do a little bit with the help of AI now, but I need better people than me to do that. And the forensics people have that on their team. I do have some other people outside of that. For instance, like Erin Warshauer that I can use for things like that. I hope she doesn't mind me saying her name. And some other people too, again, that I won't mention their name. So it's not like I'm a gumshoe out there. All right. So Esoteric Empire says that's why they were so adamant to try and create connection with Proctor and the witnesses, because they were guilty of the same thing. Well, the reason they were so adamant was because this case is an either or. Either the main evidence, the taillight evidence, was planted, or she did it. There's no middle area. It's not like some cases where the police just focused on the wrong suspect. No, either they planted evidence or Karen did it. So they need to have Proctor being someone that was planting evidence here. They need that. Give this to Deitch's opponent. I mean, I don't know who they are. I think there's like 6 of them running, right? But hopefully they take it up. Maybe. Oh, Thomas is here. Good, man. Maybe. Yeah, we should try to put together something shorter that can be appropriate for a short on YouTube and a short on Twitter. If Chick from the Bricks makes up some graphics for us, I can even my editing ability is enough to make that. So Alba Luna says that Turtle Boy had screenshots of all the signal messages and he had recordings of Karen, and I bet he has recordings and messages of Alan Jackson. I'm sure he does. Chick from the Bricks. Yes, that is the forensic room. Julie, Tuesday, Kerry, Ginny, and Lydia. Marie Sweeney says, can we write fully about the connections? I hope she cares. I hope. See, the federal government does investigate itself. It has the inspector general and it has ethics departments. But a lot of times the federal government is only moved by headlines. And so this is why it's so important for not me, but the regular media to start picking up stories like this. But we don't know how to get them to it. It's not only do I not need to be Scoop Jackson getting the first to get the story out. I reached out to other media sources. I tried to get them to run with this today, but I knew they wouldn't. But I would much rather have the Boston Globe break this story, the Spotlight team, or Christina Rex, or Ted Daniel. What will come with this information? Who knows? All you can do is put it out there and hope. Anything going on with Iran tonight, Thomas? I've been working on this story all today, so I've missed a lot of the national stuff. Rex Stone says, I saw the Karen Reed interview and her story of her first dinner as a free woman with her celebrity boyfriend lawyer inspired more than the Nelson Mandela story. All right. Alba Luna does video editing, and she says, I film for 1 to 2 days, and it takes me 3 to 5, even 7 days to come up with the final product. Yeah, it would be at least that for me. I don't even, because I don't have the skills that you guys have. Troy, I know the ladies of the forensic room. I've known them for a while, or most of them, and they have high integrity. They're not giving you anything false. And if Roberta says so, Roberta has to attack everybody that she sees as competition. She's not well. Thank you, Earl. Earl says, how was your apple pie and ice cream? It was excellent. Nothing goes better than apple pie and vanilla ice cream. That's okay, Chick. Boomer, I guess I'm behind on the chat. Boomer says, I'm hanging in there like a dirty shirt, Kevin. I can't tonight, but we do have to click up again soon. Yep, absolutely. Anytime, my friend. Let me try to get faster to get caught. I'm gonna skip right to the new comments, so it means I'm skipping over a bunch, but sometimes it's hard to get caught up. Yes, Innocent Fraud Watch is definitely Roberta. There's no doubt. Thank you, Emily. I appreciate it. Feeling good and ready to keep fighting. I go for scans this Friday, and I'm ready for whatever the results come up. We've got a plan either way. Any predictions for football this weekend? So the other question would be, as a Patriots fan, what do we want? Would we prefer Buffalo to win? If Buffalo wins, we're playing the AFC Championship game. Assuming we win, assuming we beat Houston, then we'd be playing the AFC Championship game in Foxborough, which is pretty cool. But Buffalo does scare me. Now, if Denver wins and we beat Houston, that means we'd be going to Denver. Not a good place to play ever. Denver's a tough place to play. And they have a very good defense. But so I don't know. I think Buffalo's going to beat Denver, though, in Denver. I think Buffalo's that good. Well, hoping for justice. You tell us who Innocent Fraud Watch is. I mean, Roberta lists them in every video. She repeats the same lies. Innocent Fraud Watch, when it first came on, their only purpose in existence was to make videos about me. And they came on at the same time that Roberta was mad at me because I had criticized Grant. And the videos that they put out were strange. They were really poorly edited. And they were filled with, not only were they filled with lies, but they were lies that were, you could see they were lies, just even if you didn't know this, like what just with it self-contained within the videos. It didn't make sense. So as far as I'm concerned, and I've had other people tell me they're the same person too. Some people that, I've had people recently messaging me saying they've had it with Roberta and they're not going to follow her anymore. Thank you, Sue. I appreciate it very much. They do share the very same small brain. I mean, it could be her moderator or something like that. It's someone that she's extremely close to. Thank you. Yes, I gained at my last chemo, they weigh you every time. I gained 6 pounds in 3 weeks. So I'm working on it. I lost 35, but I've gained 6 back. Thank you, Elaine. All right. I think I caught up to, did I catch up? And for those of you guys that are still here with us, some people haven't been with me for a while. I'm working on a new book called Strange Witnesses: Testimony in Famous Trials that Proved to be Suspicious or in doubt. Whether that testimony was a witness that was dishonest or a witness that just had faulty memory, which is some of the more interesting cases, or somewhere in between, or someone that just wanted to be famous, or someone that was trying to impress a celebrity defense team, or someone that was afraid of the prosecution, because that kind of suspicious testimony can come on both sides. So that is that's the new book I'm working on. If anybody has any interest in that kind of thing, and they want to send me ideas, please do. Not going to beat my Texans. Kelly Roberts, well, I respect the Texans. The great defense. Rosewater also thinks they're the same person. So maybe they share the account, and there's a couple of people in there. And she's like the glarer. She says weird things. Kitty says that Innocent Fraud Watch and Roberta reply almost simultaneously, like conjoined twins. Yeah, this. Kevin has 9 lives, 8 left. Yeah. I'm very grateful for modern medicine. That's what's given me a chance. The Bears game, yes. I mean, all the games this past weekend were just incredible. The only game that wasn't close was the Patriots game, and that was actually close for most of it. O'Keefe's lawyers will ask for all communications between Levy and Jackson to be turned over. I don't know. There's a lot of rules protecting the U.S. Attorney's Office, so I don't know. Patriots, we beat Buffalo once before. Yes, we did. So I'm not saying we can't beat Buffalo, but Josh Allen scares me. Thank you, Mickey Beach. Appreciate it. Apparently, she still is on YouTube, and some people listen to her too, which I don't really get. But Canadian April says that's awesome. I hope you're talking about the book idea. So that means you approve. I mean, it's not going to be a blockbuster, obviously, but I think it's an important contribution because it's something that's under-addressed. And I think is something that we in the public, if we haven't followed a lot of true crime or a lot of trials, maybe underestimate just how unreliable some of these witnesses could be. Look at, as we went over today, you have people in FKR who believe that Dr. Wolf is the equivalent of science with a capital S. Now that's crazy. That's just a crazy view of how even trials would work. I would not look at, for instance, I wouldn't look at Dr. Welcher on the prosecution side and say he's science. No, there's no such thing as science. There's opinion. you know? Thank you, Dreamboat Annie. Yes. So I got to scroll up, but Anna 575. Yes, petty really is the main adjective that applies to her. Besides insane. You know, the other thing too is I just think it's important, no matter how much you may have chosen a side in something, in any debate, any argument, to try to be fair and objective and try to see things from both sides, from all sides, from different angles. I also think it's important. I have a different view of the world than Roberta. So the reason I had on, she likes to use that excuse that I had on my show, someone from jail, Bill Noguera. But see, unlike Roberta, I'm curious about the world and the way it works. So if somebody's in prison doing their time and they have insights because they've spent time with famous serial killers, and I can talk to them and get what, and this, and no one would dispute that Bill Noguera is an extremely intelligent guy. So to learn from his observations, why would I not want to do that? Why would I not want to learn from that? I certainly never said he's innocent. He never said he's innocent. He's been in jail 40 years. He's out now, actually. He got out. But I want to learn from people like that. I spent time talking to him privately on the phone, too. And I found that I learned a lot. So that's my nature. I'm curious about the world. I want to know what makes things tick. And if she's not, okay, do your own thing. Hi, Laura. Good to see you. Haven't seen you in a while. So we're basically been kind of doing an every other show. So one show we'll do is not Karen Reed, and another show will be a Karen Reed related topic, because that just happens to be, there's still stuff coming out. For instance, like the Lifetime movie the other day. And there are still important things like we just revealed today related to the feds. There's very important things still going on. Christina, thank you very much. And she said, I just want to send well wishes and positive vibes. You're the best, Kevin. Thank you very much, Christina. I appreciate it. You're welcome, Marion. Thank you for being here. She's just mean. Well, if mean is okay, if you're intelligent or insightful, not that it's okay, but at least if you're intelligent, insightful, interesting, entertaining, any of those things. But meanness for the sake of meanness and spitting nonsense and untruths, what's the point? Kitty says AI tools can easily change voices. I like the timeline. I'm going to have to skip to the head again, which means I'm going past some comments. I apologize. I do my best to see everyone, but sometimes it's hard. Oh, the forensic room is on tomorrow night. Okay, thank you, Joe. So forensic room is on tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. What are they on, Joe? What's the topic of discussion? The thing is, too, is if, like, what I don't understand about her, too, is why would you, even if you're mad at someone and you don't like someone, why would you want to report things that aren't true? Terrible things. I don't get that. See, that's turtle rider tactics. That's glarer tactics. That's why I say she's like the glarer. I don't do stuff like that. I don't approve of Turtle Boy, but you don't see me attacking him with dirt. And you certainly don't see me. If there was a report out there about Turtle Boy that was something that was untrue, I would correct it and say, listen, I have information that that's not true. The truth matters. Why doesn't truth matter to people? It doesn't seem to matter to her. It definitely doesn't matter to her. So I don't really know why. But the truth matters. You don't want to put out dirt. You shouldn't be playing in the game of dirt. And if you are playing in it, at least stick to the truth. But so does anybody know what I can go to their? Have they scheduled the show yet? I can go see what they got up. See what topic it is tomorrow. So we'll do that and then we'll call it a night. Been a long night, been a long day. Was up late last night trying to nail this story down. There's nothing scheduled for tomorrow, so they just haven't made it yet, I guess. So I was, Joe, do you know what the topic is for tomorrow on their show? Guess the comm center. What's that? I don't know what that is. Is that another? What is the comm center? Oh, going into Jen McCabe's 911 call. Okay, I got it. All right. Got it. Thank you. So they are just carefully, methodically debunking various aspects of the conspiracy theory on different shows. Hot coffee. Let's see. She's talking about her book. Let me see if I got this. It keeps moving too fast for me to click on it. All right. My book is about a high-end attorney from Southampton gets away with murdering his wife. So, Hot Coffee, have you already published this book? So we're interested in helping you promote it, or let us know. Is this something that you've already published or something you're working on? Sounds like an interesting story. My book is about a high-end attorney from Southampton that gets away with murdering his wife through social media. Murdering his wife through social media. I'm curious what that means. So I'm looking to see if she wants to tell us, or Hot Coffee, I don't know if that's a he or she. If you want to tell us any more about your book, we'll wait a minute for that. And otherwise, I'm going to end the show. I need to go get some, I think we're out of pie, but I'm going to get some ice cream. Kate said the spaces would start about 9:15. Shazlik, former cop. Who's a former cop? Is that what's going on the show tomorrow night? You're in the process of writing it. Okay. Well, good luck. Feel free to email me anytime if you have any. I'm no expert, but I've published one book, but it was a very excruciating process. Hopefully you have an agent. I do not. But feel free to message me anytime. Sure, absolutely. Hot Coffee. I encourage everybody. So good night to, let's start with the moderators, Joe and Thomas Fleming. Thank you very much for being here. Very much appreciate your work. And I'll talk to Thomas tomorrow about what's going on in Iran, get the update. And I probably should do a news show up on that. I hadn't because of what was going on with this. But for everybody else out there, thank you very much for being here. And again, tonight's scoop was important. It is important. And we can further this with your information. So if you have out there information that further connects Ann Peruti, who works for the federal government for the U.S. Attorney's Office, to Karen Reed, they were from the same high school class. If you can connect them together further for us, That would be a great help. But any other information you have on any case, bring it to me and I will deal with it responsibly. I promise. Okay. Thank you very much and have a good night.